Good morning. I am still at this conference in New York City. It's the Sufan Group's Terrorism and Political Violence Summit. And this is crazy, but it's been 24 years since the September 11th attacks, and we are today getting new evidence of what happened at that time. So it started with a video conferencing in of a Connecticut Senator, Richard Blumenthal, who said that crucial new evidence has been found about the role of Saudi officials and that the information the FBI had in its hand 2 weeks after the attacks was buried and the 9/11 Commission didn't have it. So then a man named Gavin Simpson, who is an attorney representing families of 9/11 victims, he came out and he spoke at the podium and described their investigation. And he talked about how Saudi Arabia, through its Ministry of Islamic Affairs, through its embassy in DC, through its consular offices in California, especially in LA and San Diego, how they conspired with al-Qaeda to support, prepare, and perpetrate, quote unquote, he said, the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And he showed some old footage. He showed footage of a party where a Saudi man in San Diego named Omar al-Bayoumi was welcoming guests. Now, it's important to note that the Saudis say this is just a Saudi national. He is nobody who is tied to anything. But this investigation claims that this man was working with a Saudi diplomat and was also working with the hijackers. And he said that they used digital visualization techniques to identify the men in this room at this party, and that these were al-Qaeda operatives. This is new information. He also then showed footage of Bayoumi, who was holding the video camera in Washington, D.C., gathering intelligence on the U.S. Capitol with Bayoumi's voice describing what he was seeing, describing the security precautions around the perimeter of the Capitol, describing the structural details, describing the security of it, essentially gathering intelligence before the 9/11 attacks. And he also showed what he said was a drawing of Bayoumi's of calculations of an airplane before the attacks, and that this piece of paper was gathered 10 days after the attack and given to the FBI. He said that the government buried this information. And this is all notable because last week, a U.S. judge in Manhattan ruled that this litigation must go forward. Interestingly, this is the same judge who dismissed this exact case 10 years ago. The Saudis had tried to have this case dismissed. So this investigation mapped out more than 50 agents, including members of the Saudi government, laying it out there. There's going to be more information that comes out on that. But just to have this happen now, 24 years later, to give us this other piece that so many people had been suspecting and wondering why it wasn't in the 9/11 Commission report. What else were we talking about today as these experts and government officials were up on stage? One of the major themes is really the blurring of lines between domestic terrorism and foreign terrorism and extremism, of what motivates people when it comes to domestic and foreign affairs. We talked about Mangione. We talked about the attack in Las Vegas, the attack in New Orleans. One counterterrorism expert, Bruce Hoffman, he said, quote, "Was January 6th a mirage? Did it not matter?" He talked about how the release of many of these rioters could have what he called deleterious effects to terrorism and to our approach of handling terrorism. He also said that the FBI created a new term, a term called nihilistic violent extremism. And he said, where do we categorize this, on the left or on the right? There was also conversation on how the far left still has not exhibited the same kind of violent, fatal tendencies that we've seen on the far right, and why that is, how after the war in Vietnam, the far left in the United States started to die down a little bit. Not that they aren't still out there, but they don't present the same kinds of challenges. They don't have that militaristic background. And lastly, because yesterday I talked about how Israel struck Doha to go after leaders of Hamas, of their political wing. The counterterrorism expert, Brian Jenkins, who is one of the foremost experts on terrorism, counterterrorism, he described how that incident has really blurred the lines as well between state violence, between terrorism, and between counterterrorism. So, interesting conversation. I'm going to get back to it, but I just wanted to say hi and let you guys know where things stand right now. And I'll put up some images from that video content. Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying these videos, then please consider becoming a paid subscriber so I can keep doing this work. Have a good day.
I'm sorry, Jane.